Okay, everybody, welcome to Scranton City Council's regular caucus. It is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, 5:45 p.m. Just want to go through the room really quick so we could identify who is with us today. We have Councilman Kyle Donahue, Councilman Mark McAndrew, Dr. Rothschild, we have Councilman Schuster, we have our council solicitor, Kevin Hayes. We also have our city clerk, Lori Reed. We have Mayor Cognetti here with us tonight. We also have Eileen Cipriani, who is the OECD director, or potentially going to be the OECD director. And we also have Jim Lockwood here from the Scranton Times. So first of all, I hope everybody's doing well and your families are safe and healthy during this pandemic. We are going to start off the discussion tonight, as has been communicated to everyone, with Mayor Cognetti. The purpose of Mayor Cognetti being here tonight is to discuss the waiver that is on our agenda for Eileen Cipriani to be the OECD director. So Mayor Cognetti, I want to thank you for coming, and thank you, Ms. Cipriani, for coming. And Mayor Cognetti, I'll turn it over to you if you want to make some opening remarks.
Nice to see everybody. Tom, I like that background. You definitely win the prize for the best background. I realize it's actually your home and not a background, but so it's good to see everybody. I am very excited this week to have a couple of new people starting with Amber Viola and Eileen Cipriani starting yesterday. We had our managers meeting yesterday, and while it's also a Brady Bunch style of boxes on the screen, it felt good to have someone in that HR director role finally, after months of us searching and months of Mayor Evans having to do without as well. So that's a real relief for all of us here in management to have Amber starting. It's very exciting. And then with Eileen Cipriani today, come before you today to introduce Eileen to you. I would be excited to introduce Eileen to you and to the city at any time. However, given the situation that we're in with fighting this pandemic and not even looking at a recession, but I think we know we are in one, and it's going to be really painful for a lot of the families and many of the businesses in our city. So the timing of Eileen joining this team could not be better in a very difficult time. Already in 2 working days, Eileen has connected with people all over the state that can help Scranton find avenues for funding, find different ways that we can pitch for, maybe more flexible rules with the Liquor Control Board, for example, as we look to open up some of those city streets this summer. She's looking at intern programs and how we can get those types of things funded, and working with the OECD team to lay out where we've been and where we can go, all toward developing with me and with all of you, with the community, a strategic plan that we can really use to guide all of our decision making in the coming weeks and months and years. So it's a tremendous opportunity to have Eileen with us, who has the experience to do that with us here in the city. And I just couldn't be more excited that she's here, at any time, but B, especially given the unfortunate circumstances we find ourselves in. So I'll give Eileen a chance to introduce herself to you, and you guys can get to know each other a little. Eileen, you're on mute, I think.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the introduction, and Council. It's a pleasure to meet all of you and see an old face in the room. Solicitor, it's very good to see you, Kevin. It's been a long time since I've seen you, but thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to come to Scranton and to work in this administration. I've heard nothing but good things about the council and the mayor. So I think it's a really good opportunity. So I come to you with last 5 years I've spent in Harrisburg with part of Governor Wolf's administration, most recently the Deputy Secretary for Workforce Development at the Department of Labor and Industry. So it gives me a really good advantage to come in and talk in the economic development world, because we worked hand in glove with the Department of Community and Economic Development in Harrisburg. you can't have economic development without workforce development. So I spent a tremendous amount of time traveling the state. So I had an opportunity to meet so many different members of communities all across the state and see projects going on from one end of the state to the other. And there's some remarkable projects going around the state that I would love to bring here to Northeastern Pennsylvania and Scranton, because there is so much good that we could all do together in the city of Scranton. You know, right now, when you look at the times that we're in right now, I know everyone is, you know, there's such a level of concern and fear for our economy, for our health, for our well-being. So we need to all pull together and really make sure that we take advantage of any opportunities that come from the federal government and come from the state government. And I feel I'm uniquely positioned with the contacts that I have made through my work in the state government. And as the Deputy Secretary for Workforce Development, I was actually fully funded by the federal government. So our interconnectivity with the federal government was very strong in that department. And we just like the office that I'm in now, we dealt with federal money. So we have a very strong background in how federal government operates and how state government operates. And as the mayor said, in my role, I do know where a lot of good programs are going on, and I do know where a lot of the funding is going on. So it's a way to connect the dots and reach out and make that quicker connection that maybe it'd be a little harder to make without my experience and my qualifications. Other thing I want to point out is you may not know this about me, but I sat in a seat similar to yours. I spent 9 years on West Wyoming Borough Council. So I know exactly what it feels like to be in a council member seat and know what an important job that is. But one other thing I want to make sure that you understand about how I think, and I believe the mayor is completely on board with this. What we want to do is put together a strategic plan for economic development, workforce development, community development, and engage partners in there. And one of the key partners to putting that plan together is to have city council as a part of the plan and part of the steering committee, so that we can really come up with a solid plan to move Scranton forward and to navigate this, this perilous time that we're going to be going through. So if anybody has any question that I could answer, I'd be more than happy to answer that, or let you get on with your meeting.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the mayor or Mrs. Cipriani? Am I pronouncing your name right? Cipriani, correct?
That's correct.
Correct. Does any of the council members have any questions for Mayor Cognetti or Mrs. Cipriani in regards to the waiver or anything in regards to the appointment? Mrs. Cipriani, I have one question for you, and you touched on this a little bit, but you know, what would be some of the goals that you would have for the Office of Economic and Community Development? So if you end up getting the waiver approved and you are appointed as the OECD director, fast forward 2 years, what would you have liked to accomplish as the director?
Well, one thing, I would really like Scranton to be known as the business community of Northeastern Pennsylvania, the most business-friendly community of Northeastern Pennsylvania. I think it's really important to, right now, it's going to be really important to retain the businesses. So you really want to track, do some metrics. I'm really big into metrics. Track how many businesses we're able to retain here, and following that with how many jobs that we're able to retain here. You have a strong education and medical presence, but I think it's also important to look to diversify that, to make sure that you have a solid background that sort of recession proofs you, because you have a broad industry portfolio throughout the city. And it's not just about jobs, it's about quality jobs, right? I think it's really important that there really doesn't appear to be a strong workforce component. We need to make sure that we have that so that we could train the citizens of Scranton and give them the best opportunities that there are. You have how many higher ed educations right in the city. I mean, that's a phenomenal resource, but that needs to be linked completely with economic development and workforce development and the community development. It needs to work hand in glove throughout the city, throughout the county, and throughout the region. There's a phenomenal amount of potential with the amount of federal dollars right now that are being put out there. But the idea would be to bring them in and strategically have a plan where you build on top of each other like building blocks.
Right. And that's connecting all of the educational resources with the economic development resources. I think you all know in the city of Scranton, we've been missing that economic development and workforce piece for quite some time. If you read the letter that I wrote to you last week, you see that Act 47 exit plan language. Years ago, Jerry Cross has said, and he's repeated by saying, you've got to get somebody in economic development. You have to get that internal capacity for economic development. So it's part of the Act 47 exit plan. And, you know, sitting here, I can see Lackawanna College. I can almost see the medical college, University of Scranton. We've got Johnson. We have all these incredible institutions that do everything from, you know, the technical training to all the way up to producing doctors. So Eileen specifically in the entire state can come in and start working with Jill Murray at Lackawanna College, Lars at University of Scranton, and Katie Leonard at Johnson, and get all of that to work so that we're working together and along with the school district and the schools, the parochial schools, working to figure out how we're pitching kids to go into the jobs that are available. And we want the availability of jobs to be on a diverse spectrum, from everybody who wants to be a teacher or a firefighter to also maybe some of those other jobs where they need to go get some training at a law school and come back. But we've got to, we all know, everyone on this Zoom tonight, you guys, we all know how much Scranton needs more of these quality jobs and to better match the training with the jobs. Eileen is uniquely qualified statewide to help us see that through. And it's a tremendous opportunity for us here in the city to have Eileen join the team. We on the Pell call, I think, Councilperson Donahue, you remember when I mentioned Eileen's name, Jerry was excited. He certainly knows Eileen and thought that was a tremendous gain for the city to have her coming on board. I've gotten lots of phone calls from DCED to commend us for being able to bring on Eileen. So it's a real opportunity. And I did want to leave you guys a couple of examples of things that we do here. So one being matching the workforce opportunity with education. And Eileen, you would be able to speak much better than I can on that. The other piece would be the one-stop shop. So something Eileen mentioned was that I've said to you guys a lot into the community, we got to make it easier to do business in Scranton. Right now you have contractors all over the region that would like to do business here, but they won't because it's too cumbersome to get through a licensing and permitting department. We've made great strides. Tom Oleski's done a great job since he's been acting director to start to do that. COVID has in some way helped us because it's accelerated our move to online permitting. So we're really getting somewhere. In order to truly make it easy to do business in Scranton, we have to have that streamlined, bringing OEC and lists and the fire department and everyone under the same hood so that you know where to go. Eileen ran a program like that at the state. So Eileen, if you want to just mention that quickly.
Sure. I'm bouncing back a little bit. A project.
Is anybody else having a problem with audio?
Yeah, Mayor, when you're speaking, it's a little, I don't know. It's like feedback or something, right, Tom? Is that what you're hearing?
I didn't hear most of what Mayor Cognetti said or the start of Mrs. Cipriani.
Just now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Yeah, I can hear you, Mrs. Cipriani. Can you hear her now, Tom?
This is a little bit better. Just a second, please.
It still seems to be freezing. Is that me on my end though, or is it on her end?
No, I could see the mayor freezing a little bit on her screen.
Okay. I'd say I got most of it, but it was real choppy.
Okay, let me try to log in differently.
Mrs. Cipriani, I think you were okay though, if you want to keep going with what
So the project that the mayor's talking about was Business One Stop. And in the context of the state, when you're putting together a business, you need the Department of State, you need the Department of Labor and Industry, you need the Department of Community and Economic Development. And there's little check boxes along the way of tasks that you need to complete. What we did was we pulled that together in what we referred to as the Business One-Stop Plan. So if you think of that for Scranton, right now this week, two individuals approached me just this week to help them make some connectivities for apprenticeship programs to businesses. So this office with myself in it would be uniquely positioned to be able to say, yes, I know someone that could help you start an apprenticeship program. I actually know where you could find grant funding for an apprenticeship program, and bring that to businesses as one stop. And the other thing I'd mentioned to the mayor is this concept of sort of shepherding businesses, because that business needs someone to go back to when they're stuck. If they're stuck in a department in the city, or they're just stuck at the county, if they could come back to that one stop, and that person can help them get over that obstacle to move forward. Nothing's more frustrating to businesses than to run into bureaucracy along the way. So to be able to be that piece of the puzzle that could move businesses forward, and as I said when I started, to be business friendly. We're open for business, and we want businesses to come here, and more importantly, right now, we need them to stay here.
With that being said, Mrs. Cipriani, what ways are you thinking moving into the future to assist with our small businesses that are having some trouble through this situation, maybe keeping some of them open that may close their doors?
Sure. Actually, we've identified some funding from the SBA. So we're working on putting a plan together right now. Right now, we think it's going to be loan funding. If we can make it grant funding, we certainly will, but we need to follow the rules of it, and put that out to help them, because they need that bridge. A lot of them applied for PPP. Not everybody got it, and that's really not enough money for everybody. I talked to the Lackawanna County today. There were so many applicants for that grant funding, it took their server down right off the bat. So we know the need is tremendous. The city's right now doing a survey so that they could get feedback from the businesses, so that we could find those niches where the funding that's coming down from the federal government is maybe missing the mark. I know that the first round of funding, people weren't able to buy inventory. So if they were a business going to open back up, and a restaurant, say, they didn't have inventory to start opening back up, and that wouldn't fund that. So that's what we're looking at right off the bat. We will be getting the COVID-19 funding in. That's we got guidance on that today, so we'll be pulling that together as well. So there are some things coming where they're in the queue.
Yeah, and I would just to talk a little bit more about that. So I believe early last week we sent out the small business survey, and that part of it's that question: would you rather have a grant or a loan? If a grant, how big? Well, obviously everybody wants a large grant, but would you rather have a $25,000 to $5,000 grant, or would you rather take out a $10,000 to $20,000 loan, for example? So we're trying to be thoughtful and see what businesses need. Inventory is a huge piece of that. That some of these businesses that have not been able to be open, the PPP is not, as at least as it is today, the right thing for somebody who maybe hasn't been able to be open. I think the federal government, I know the Treasury Secretary was on today talking about some modifications to that. But what we need to do here in the city is figure out where we can fill those gaps. So Eileen's taken the baton on that and is running with it. And what's been really fun already is that Eileen has so many contacts throughout the state that we already, I was looking at different, talking with different mayors around the state about what we could do. Eileen has a lot of those relationships. It's far and away more than I could ever possibly have at this point. So we really can see some of these models that are built both in the short term to your question, Councilperson Schuster, what is the short term pain that we can relieve? What are those longer term plans look like? But it remains really, really difficult. There are a lot of businesses that are truly suffering out there, and having Eileen start right now this week to help us see what we can do is just critical.
Thanks to Councilman Schuster for that question, because that was actually the same question I was going to ask about. We're very concerned about our small businesses in the city, Scranton, but there was another question I had too for Ms. Cipriani. I'm chair of the Committee for Community Development, and you had mentioned wanting to work closely with council, which I appreciate, and you having been in one of those positions in the past. So I just wanted to make sure that you would be okay with maybe regular calls or meetings with myself as chair, so that I can stay up to date on what we're doing in OECD.
Absolutely. And I certainly would like to have you involved even at a greater level than that, to get, depending on your capacity and your time. We certainly could use all the input that that you could offer us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be as involved as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothschild and Councilman Schuster. Does anybody else have any questions for the mayor or for Mrs. Cipriani? Okay, I don't think anybody has any other questions. So I want to thank you, Mayor Cognetti and Mrs. Cipriani, for coming tonight, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, everybody, that takes care of that part of the agenda. So just want to mention a few things here. We are going to have on our agenda next week the legislation that would limit the administration from increasing any salaries outside of the budget. If there was a case where the mayor or her administration were going to do that, or any future mayor or administration, that they would have to come before council. The same goes for if they were going to create a job classification outside of the budget. So I know everyone has reviewed that. We did send it to the administration for their comments. They did not provide any as of this afternoon. So that will be on the agenda to be introduced next week. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that? No?
I'm just never good to go with it.
Okay, good. The only other thing I had was in terms of public comment, and I'm going to mention this in the regular meeting, Mrs. Schumacher, as everyone knows, has posed several questions over the last few weeks. And what I have done is any questions that were relevant to the administration that they could best answer, or department specific, I had forwarded, as all of you know, to the mayor and her administration in those specific departments. One question that she had concerning the Pennsylvania Economy League was answered. It was emailed to Ms. Schumacher, and I know Mr. Cross from the Pennsylvania Economy League gave her his cell phone number in case she had any additional questions on that specific information. I don't have anything else. The only thing I want to flip it over to Lori. Do you have anything that you want to add?
Thank you, Councilman Gohan. Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. And Solicitor Hayes, do you have anything before I turn it over to the council members?
No, I don't. Not this time.
Thank you. Councilman Donahue, do you have anything?
Solicitor Hayes, I forgot to mention this when we talked before, but have we gotten anywhere with regards to the PA American Water rate hike?
As far as I know, they have not announced the public input process, but I will follow up on that. I know that there is one that is taking place in early June, but that is for another utility rate increase. So I don't know. I will follow up on that.
Thank you. Anything else, Kyle?
Thank you. No, that's all I have right now.
Okay. Councilman McAndrew, do you have anything?
I just want to give Mr. Solicitor Hayes a head up. Under motions, this is week 4 of asking for the billable hours of the acting the acting HR director. So, outside of doing a right to know, which would be ridiculous, could you please subpoena that information for me?
Sure. Yeah, and we have a subpoena of power. The only problem we may have at this point in time is if the bills don't exist because they haven't been submitted, then that'll be the response we receive. And that was the explanation that I had last week, was that Solicitor Upberg's office was in such a position that they did not generate the bill yet and submit it to the city, and wasn't available. That's why it wasn't available. But I will follow up with that request, and we do have the ability to subpoena.
Okay, I understand maybe the bill hasn't been generated, but the hours have been. I mean, this is the 4th week, so I wanted the information before 4 weeks ago. So the past 4 weeks, if the acting HR director worked 40 hours a week for the past 4 weeks at $89 an hour. That's a third of the budgeted salary for the HR director. So I don't even know how many hours we can be prior to that. So this is, I think the taxpayers need to know how much this is costing them. So thank you for your help. I'll bring it up under motions, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilman McAndrew?
No, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Dr. Rothschild, anything you want to bring up?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councilman Schuster.
First, the connection issue. Are you guys able to hear me or?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes.
You were just a little bit choppy before. The mayor was too until she switched her connection.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to figure out whose connection that was, whether it was hers or mine. I'd like to fix it before the meeting, but it seems okay now. Actually, to piggyback off of what Mark just said, I kind of wish the mayor was back here now, but I didn't think about it until after he had said that. Was did we get a time when the current HR director will be ending billing of hours? Are they staying on for some time, or any kind of clarification how the transition will go with HR?
Yeah, I don't know that for sure, but I think that's a good question, and maybe one that we want to put in writing if you want to make a motion to that effect tonight, to send if you want to send correspondence as a council to get a date on which the acting HR director will be parting ways. I'm assuming that it will be when Ms. Viola takes over as the new HR director, but I'm not positive on that.
And Councilman Schuster, that issue was raised in a telephone conference I had with the mayor's chief of staff and solicitor. And the explanation that was provided to me was that she would be, Mrs. Leo would be getting phased out of that role now that there's upon appointment of the new HR director. However, she will lend, litigation support and other support to Solicitor Offberg in his role as the labor solicitor. But if you want a formal date, that could be requested. But that was the explanation that was provided to me.
Okay, if you guys think that would be helpful, yeah, I could request that.
Sorry, just got kicked out. What did I miss there, Tom?
If you guys feel that would be helpful, I could request that correspondence as for an end date of the current HR director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine.
Definitely. Thanks, Tom.
Anything else, Mr. Schuster?
No, that's all.
Okay. The only other thing I reached out to Wayne Beck, the city treasurer, this week. I don't know if anyone else has gotten calls on this, but apparently some residents are paying their garbage bill online, and obviously they're within the discount period. So they're paying $270, and after they pay it, it's still showing that they owe a balance of $30. So Wayne Beck got back to me and said that they had similar issues last year, and he was going to look into that. So just in case anybody gets calls from anyone who may be paying their garbage bills online, they are looking into that, and they are going to get back to me. The other thing I'm going to bring up tonight too is in terms of ATVs, I've been getting just absolutely crushed with emails, phone calls regarding ATVs, really in every part of the city. Specifically though on East Mountain, there seems to be a lot of trouble up there. So I did talk earlier today to Solicitor Hayes, and he's going to look into, first of all, our current laws that we have on the book in terms of ATVs, and then what we might be able to do to possibly bolster these. We also may want to have a conversation, Mark, and this is where you will come in with as public safety chair with Chief Graziano in terms of enforcement. I understand that, and this is what I've explained to people, that the police can't chase people who are on ATVs for obvious reasons, safety reasons. But as I said, I can't ignore the calls and emails that I'm getting, because it seems to be a major issue. So we'll look into that.
Mr. Gohan, could I jump in there a second?
Sure.
You bringing up ATVs, I was going to also bring up ATVs today too, because I did get several calls from East Mountain. I got some pictures and video as well, and they're bringing Jeeps and trucks and cars back in there at this point too. I was told when they staged the area at the bottom of East Mountain Road in Mulkey, they were using that little dirt patch there. I think that leads down into the pipeline. That new pipeline was put in there along the railroad tracks.
Mhm.
And they didn't move the concrete barriers back. So at this point, it's a space big enough for larger vehicles like trucks to get in. And that's how a lot of these vehicles are getting in. So it might be a good idea to see if it's in our purview to have someone maybe move in some concrete barriers in there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That might be a solution. And, you know, I understand that people who have ATVs want to ride them around, and that's fine, but it seems that, you know, some of these people are just not courteous at all. Like I know, especially on East Mountain, there's at least 2 or 3 people that reach out to me who have medical issues, who literally are like being terrorized by these things. So, you know, as I said, Kevin's going to look into what's currently on the books, and then we should have a conversation with Chief Graziano. And I know they're getting calls too. And that there may be only so much now that they can do, and we should look into how they maybe can force it, or maybe we can give them some more tools, or put a little more teeth in the ordinance. So
I agree. I think that would be helpful. And like you said, it's a problem all around the city. I've heard the complaints in the past, and not only that, but it's a problem in my neighborhood. There's an alley pretty close by to my house, and they ride up and down it and around the block, and you hear it all day long. And it's definitely a disturbance. So, you know, in addition to addressing the specific problem to East Mountain, I think it'd be helpful to get the police involved. And even if they can't chase after them, they could still find out who's doing it and go to the properties and speak to either the parents, because I mean, there's children riding on them. It's, you know, it's not necessarily adults doing this too. So.
right, I agree.
I also think maybe possibly another angle to look at too. I know in North Scranton, they've complained about it for years because they're riding on the dike. And I think some of the concern there was maybe taking away inches off the top of the dike there for the flood, for our flood plan there. Might be another angle to look at it too in that section of the city.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And it really isn't just, you know, to one section. It's North Scranton, East Mountain, Manuka, it's South Side, West Side, it's all over the place. So.
While we're waiting, Solicitor Hayes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I know I had a short conversation about possibly payment of income tax. Maybe it was stated that business manager Sheridan was paying income tax into the city. Has this at all been mentioned with Ms. Cipriani?
Bill, Councilman Gohan, my understanding is the current business administrator, Pat Sheridan, agreed to pay the city's income tax. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Mrs. Reed, didn't we received, I believe we received some sort of correspondence from him. Is that correct? At some point?
I have to go back in the file and check just to confirm that.
Okay, yeah, I'm almost positive that we did, Tom. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm confident in saying that he did.
Now, was that something that was voluntary or?
That was voluntary, yep.
Okay.
My recollection is that in the past, other cabinet appointees who had lived outside the city had agreed to pay the wage tax. I think that was the case in Business Administrator Balzoni, and I remember former Director of Public Works George Parker had agreed to do that as well. Is my understanding.
Right.
Has that all been discussed in with the appointment of Ms. Cipriani?
No,
Nothing
as far as I'm aware, no one has brought that up. So, I mean, if that's something that we want to request as a council, I'm certainly I'm open to that, Councilman Schuster.
Yeah, I think it'd be something to explore. I don't know what the best method to get to that would be.
Well, I think what you can do, if you want, is just in fifth order in motions, you can make a motion to request that council send a letter to the mayor asking that Mrs. Cipriani do that. And, you know, we'll see where that goes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
When are the 6 months up for the business administrator?
I believe that was, so he got appointed in January, so would that be June or July? Yeah, so that's coming up.
Okay, and have we received any word on his position?
We have not. The last that I talked to the mayor in regards to that was a few months ago, and it was supposed to be a temporary, well, as you know, I think she was even in the caucus and stated that. So that may be something that we wanna revisit.
Yeah, that's the assumption that I was under, and you know, now that we're getting a waiver request for one employee, I'm wondering if we're going to be receiving one for him, or if she'll be looking for another person, as she, I think, said that she would when we last spoke to her about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can inquire about that as well.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, it is 6:21, so we will reconvene here at 6:30 and we'll start our regular meeting. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Okay, everyone, welcome to our Tuesday, May 19th, 2020 regular Scranton City Council meeting. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. As we have been the past few months, let us take a special moment of silence again tonight for all of those in our community and throughout the world who are suffering or who have passed away from the coronavirus. Let us think about them and their families at this time, that they may find peace. Let us think about the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professionals and first responders who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they find protection and peace. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness or only a few, let us stick together, endure together, mourn together, persist and prepare together. And in place of our anxiety, let us continue to hope and find peace. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Carrera, roll call, please.
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothschild,
Here.
Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gohan.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Carrera. Please note that there will be a motion to move item 6A to 7th order for a final vote this evening. Mrs. Reed, please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Thank you. Third order, 3A, proclamation issued by Mayor Paige G. Cognetti, dated May 8, 2020, postponing the date of the city treasurer's sale for the collection of delinquent taxes from June 1, 2020 until September 1, 2020. 3B, correspondence sent from Scranton City Council dated May 12, 2020 to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection regarding Keystone Sanitary Landfill Phase 3 Site Development Application. 3C, proclamation issued by Mayor Paige G. Cognetti, dated May 11, 2020, extending the state of emergency in the city of Scranton. 3D, emergency declaration issued by Mayor Paige G. Cognetti, dated May 12, 2020, extending the state of emergency to June 8, 2020. 3E, check received from Comcast in the amount of $260,513.97 for quarterly franchise fee. 3F, minutes of the Historical Architecture Review Board meeting held April 23, 2020. 3G, Controller's Report for month ending April 30, 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? I just have one. In terms of public comment, we did receive questions about the controller's report from Mrs. Schumacher, so we are going to forward that to the administration. One was in regards to a street lighting lease, and one was in regards to CDW government and an expense that was made by the IT department. So we'll get an answer on that. Any other comments? If not received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time? Okay, I have two announcements tonight. Similar to the announcement I make every week since we started having our meetings in Zoom. If anyone would like to comment on agenda items or city business, please send those comments in writing to our city clerk, Lori Reed, by emailing lreed@scrantonpa.gov. Council will accept public comment until the day of our meeting, Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Public comment is reviewed by the council prior to our meeting and is placed on the official record and in the minutes of our meetings. Council's agenda is being posted for public review the Friday before our Tuesday meeting. Our agenda and minutes can be accessed by going to www.scrantonpa.gov and clicking on the city council page. Also, final announcement, DPW is going to be off next Monday, May 25th for the Memorial Day holiday. Refuse and newspaper collection will be one day behind next week. And that's all I have. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you, Councilman. Just to double check back with you, were all third order items received and filed?
Yes, all third order items were received and filed.
Thank you. Fourth order, citizens participation.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. I would ask now that someone please make a motion to accept public comment from the following individuals: Faye Franis and Marie Schumacher.
So moved.
Okay, on the question, Mrs. Franis had submitted several questions related to the appointment of Mrs. Cipriani tonight. I had talked prior to the meeting with Solicitor Hayes, and Solicitor Hayes, you can, if you can research her questions, Mrs. Franis's questions, and then provide a response by next week, I would appreciate that. Okay. Sorry, you were muted.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Schumacher, again, as I mentioned in the caucus, had submitted several questions. So we are going to forward those to the proper department. I do have one of the answers. I just don't have it right in front of me now. So I will forward that over to her. And then hopefully we get some answers. I do know that the administration did respond to one of her questions and is working on the others. Does anyone else have any comment? Okay, there's been a motion made. There's been on the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved. Mrs. Reed?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Councilman Schuster, do you have any motions or comments tonight?
Yes, I have a couple. So we talked in caucus a little bit about the ATVs. I don't know if the caucus went public at this point in time, but probably have to state that again, correct?
It was public, but you can state it again.
So I did get a call with some pictures, some video from over on East Mountain, and one of the sections there, they used a place at the bottom of Mulkey and East Mountain Road for staging while they were doing the pipeline and possibly for 81. And the concrete dividers that keep vehicles out of that area have been moved. where cars and ATVs could get in. So we were exploring some of the options that we could take there with ATVs in several sections of the city. And also we stated about the flood project in North Scranton, or I stated about the flood project in North Scranton, that maybe some of those ATVs were taking some of the topsoil off the top of the floodplain, or the flood, the dams there. So that's a possibility. I also wanted to request that council send correspondence to the administration to see if we can get a written response for a date of an end date for the current HR director before the new HR director takes that position, as well as to send a letter to the mayor requesting a tax payment from Mrs. Cipriani. And one other thing, we did get an email about the polling places, the fire stations, one of them being the fire station in North Scranton on West Market Street, and the other one, the East Mountain Fire Station. Do we know, or do we get any answer as to whether those polling stations will be opened on election day?
You know, Tom, that's a good question. I was actually going to bring this up as well. The county has sent, I think it came from Don Frederickson.
Yes.
Yeah, he had sent a letter that is basically saying that the mayor has made a decision to close Ward 2-1 and Ward 12-3, the firehouses that you just mentioned in terms of voting in the presidential primary election. I don't know how the mayor is able to do that, to be quite honest with you, this close to an election. And I think Don Frederickson is making the same argument here. So that the Board of Elections is requesting that she reconsider her decision to close the two city firehouses to the voters on June 2nd and allow them to serve as polling places as they have for the past 3 decades. I would tend to agree with that. And if you want, I think we can send correspondence to the mayor trying to get a explanation as to why that was done.
Yeah, that would be good.
Anything else, Mr. Schuster?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. Councilman McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I do, Mr. Councilman Gohan. I apologize. I was unable to unmute myself during a moment of silence, but 2 gentlemen from the city passed away last week. One was Billy Boquicchio. He worked for the single tax office for 21 years, and Lieutenant James Togger of the Scranton Fire Department. So please let them know that they're in our hearts and prayers. Secondly, also today, as chairman of the Public Safety Committee, I'd like to say that I had the great pleasure today at noon to watch the Scranton Police Department virtual memorial. It was very moving. It was honoring our fallen police officers that made the ultimate sacrifice. The inscription at the base of the monument pretty much summed it all up: integrity, courage, and honor. So great job, Chief Graziano, the Memorial Committee, and the Scranton Police Department. Secondly, also, we discussed in caucus, it's no secret I've been asking for the billable hours of the acting HR director for the past 4 weeks, and the hours prior to the past 4 weeks. So what I said in caucus was, what is our recourse? Because I'm waiting 4 weeks. And so if that person, the acting HR director, worked 40 hours a week for the past 4 weeks, not including the prior weeks, that would, at $89 an hour, which is a lot of money, would be like 14 grand or so, which would be a third of the budgeted salary for Ms. Viola. So Solicitor Hayes said the possibility of a subpoena. I mean, I don't think I should have to do a right to know, which is, I mean, I asked, I think a reasonable question in a reasonable amount of time. So with that said, please, Solicitor Hayes, please explore that for me so we can get this information to the taxpayer. I'm not the only one asking. There's people coming up to me in the community, taxpayers asking, what's going on here. So please do that for me.
I will.
Thank you. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McAndrew. Dr. Rothschild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have one comment tonight that I wanted to offer, and I just wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Ward for the work that she's done as OEC director. I think that she has done a great job. And I'm really appreciative for what she's done for the city and the fact that she will be continuing to stay with the city as assistant director. I think is great too. I think we're lucky to have her. So I was happy to see that and just wanted to make a note of that. And I know that we will be discussing the residency waiver that's on for our legislation. And I had just a few comments about that. I do believe that from our conversations and seeing the resume of Ms. Cipriani, that she is highly qualified for the position. And I think she does have connections that are unique and that we perhaps have not had, and knowledge of a lot of grants that will be useful for the city. So I was excited to see her. Obviously, she does not live in the city of Scranton, and while that is problematic, I've been a little confused in the past on the residency requirement that we have. I feel like maybe it's an outdated ordinance. I haven't really heard of a lot of other places, cities, municipalities that have that same sort of legislation still. And I would hate to, I think, lose out on such a great candidate for the position just because of that. I don't think that she's going to put any less effort into her job because of it. I don't think she would work harder if she lived in the city of Scranton. So, I think that I will be supporting her in that position, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to work with her. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothschild. Councilman Donahue, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, just a couple quickly. Ms. Reed, would we be able to send the following addresses over to licensing inspections to go and look out? I've gotten some complaints on both of them. One is 2041, 2043 Margaret Ave. And then the other is 1068 Cottage Avenue. Just some quality of life issues there. And would we be able to request another update on the progress of the Sorrento Center as well? I think we sent that out a couple weeks ago, and I don't think we've gotten anything back to my knowledge. And then another request is a status update on the contract with Northeast Revenue and where the administration is with that. And could we also request the paving list for this year and to see when an RFP or RFQ will go out for the city's paving program? I could put all this in an email too, so we don't miss anything.
Kyle, I'm sorry. I think Mrs. Reed got knocked off the call for a second.
Okay, I'll put it in an email to her, but just so you know, those are the requests I'll be putting in, and that's all I have.
I'm sorry, my call dropped. I'm sorry. I have 2041, 43 Margaret and 1068 Cottage Ave to the Lips Department, and I'm sorry I wasn't on the call after that.
That I was just looking for a status update for the Sorrento Center project or progress. Then the status update on the Northeast Revenue contract.
Okay, will do.
Or yeah,
Thank you.
I could take care of the Northeast Revenue contract. That's something that I've been trying to obtain information on per the request of Councilman Gohan, so I'll follow up on that issue.
Okay,
Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have a few comments. I mentioned in the caucus about a resident reaching out to me regarding the garbage bills and paying the garbage bills online. So I just want to state this at the public meeting in case anyone else is experiencing the same type of issue. The woman who reached out to me had paid her garbage bill online, $270 with a discount. And after she paid it, it was still showing that she owed $30. So I did reach out to the city treasurer. He did state that they had some similar issues to this last year, and he was going to get back to me. So if any council members get calls on that, or anyone from the public is watching and that has happened, that is being looked into. Councilman Schuster mentioned the ATVs. I too have gotten a lot of calls on this issue. So in the caucus, and Councilman Schuster had requested tonight as well that Solicitor Hayes look into the laws that we have on the book in regards to ATVs and maybe what we can do to better enforce them or add more teeth to them. So we'll take a look at that.
Absolutely.
The other thing, I had a conversation today with briefly with Mrs. Reed regarding 3rd Avenue. Before this whole pandemic started to occur, I was in constant contact with the residents of 3rd Avenue regarding truck traffic. I received a message today from the gentleman who was leading the charge over there in regards to this issue. And it still is a major issue, and it's a major nuisance to that neighborhood. So I had asked Mrs. Reed if she would send correspondence again to the mayor, the DPW, and the city engineer, and to copy the police chief, Carl Graziano, on it as well. Basically to try to see if we can come up with some sort of solution and to do an assessment of that area once again. So hopefully that will be taken care of. I also got a call in regards to a gentleman who was attacked by a pit bull in the hill section. He had relayed to me really a horrific story of a dog that is kind of terrorizing the neighborhood. He requested that council revisit the laws that we have on the book. I had sent him the memo that Solicitor Hayes had provided to us when Mr. Spindler had requested something similar. So what he had suggested, and what maybe we'll have a discussion on in the next few weeks, is requiring dangerous dogs to wear muzzles when they are on a public street. This is something that he is pushing for. Again, it's not something we're gonna make a decision on tonight or anything, but I just wanted to let everyone know that he probably will be reaching out to all of you. So that is an issue that he is stating that several people in the hill section are concerned about as well. In regards to the polling,
I received the same complaint from that gentleman, and I instructed him to actually, do public comment in the form of an email, so we can actually get this process started. Sorry.
Okay, oh, that's okay.
No, sorry, I'm going to jump in here too. Now, was that breed specific, or was it just any dangerous dog?
I can't even remember, to be honest with you. Maybe, yeah, I think it was pit bulls, but I forgot you weren't on council when we had that memo. Tom, I'll forward it to you so you can take a look at it. But yeah, it's definitely an issue. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll forward that over to you.
To jump back to that, the ATV piece, the neighbor said that up there on East Mountain Road that the concrete barriers are open enough that the vehicles could get in there. I don't know if it's in the city's purview to move those barriers or whose property that is, but that might be a fix to that situation there. Just finding out whose property that is to move those.
Right, that's a good idea.
I do believe that property is privately owned, and I don't know. I know the barriers that Mr. Schuster's talking about, and it sort of didn't stop ATVs, but it stopped, like a Jeep or something from going back that way. But I believe it's privately owned, and I don't know if the city had something to do with putting those there in the first place, or if the property owner just did that on their own. So maybe we could look into that too.
Yeah, and some of the video I had was trucks and Jeep, like several of them in like a convoy going back at night with their headlights
Oh
on.
yeah.
Okay, and the last thing that I had was in regards to the letter that we received or were copied on today in regards to changing polling places, one in North Scranton and one on East Mountain and the firehouses. I actually just received an email from Stephanie Pisco, the mayor's chief of staff. They had been in communication with the Bureau of Elections from the county, and the reason for their request for those changes was because of the coronavirus. They did not want people in those firehouses with employees in them voting. So they suggested the use of other properties nearby. So I'm not really sure where it's at, but that was the reasoning for that. So we'll follow up on that, I guess.
Yeah, I know there were some changes in some polling places. I did look at the county site where I saw that, say, for example, the Boys and Girls Club on Ash Street, I think they were going to be voting at the county building, and several of those polling places were going to vote at the county building. School board president Katie Martin just sent me, I'm going to forward it to you now, but it's from the Department of State, and the school district got that correspondence from the Department of State, I think, stating that they had to open for election day. So I don't know. And looking at that, it also has municipal buildings, township buildings, things of that nature. So it might be just a possibility those buildings would be open for that day.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all I have. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. 5B, for introduction of resolution, appointment of Amber Viola, 1512 Ross Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509, to the position of Director of Human Resources, effective May 18, 2020.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Bill's frozen.
You there, Bill?
Bill, you were frozen. We got
Sorry, guys.
We got a first and a second.
Did I freeze again? Freeze again? Hold on. Okay, am I good now?
Yes.
Okay, so we had somebody seconded that, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, okay. On the question? All those, sorry,
Yes,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. On the question, I would just like to say, I know that Ms. Viola had applied for a vacant council seat previously. I mean, she clearly has an interest in city government. I think that she'll be able to utilize her skills well in this position. So I'm happy to see that. We found an HR director. I know that it took quite a bit of time, and I'm glad that we have finally gotten here. So I'm just happy to see that we found a great person for the position.
Thank you, Dr. Rothschild. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Mrs. Reed?
5C, for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Thomas A. Priambo, 510 Dean Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509, to the position of Director of the Department of Public Works, effective May 25, 2020.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I just want to congratulate Mr. Priambo on his appointment, and I want to thank Mr. Gallagher for all the work that he's done over the past few years as the DPW director. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D, for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Eileen Cipriani, 117 Washington Avenue, West Wyoming, Pennsylvania, 18644, to the position of Executive Director of the City of Scranton's Office of Economic and Community Development, effective May 18, 2020. Ms. Cipriani will be replacing Mary Pat Ward, who was serving as Executive Director.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I'm going to be voting for this appointment tonight, and I'll also be voting in the next piece of legislation to grant the residency waiver for several reasons. First, in the past, I have stated my concern with hiring individuals who do not reside in the city. I'm taking a different position today for the following reasons. First, by all accounts, the United States may be entering into one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression of the 1930s. The coronavirus pandemic has had an absolutely devastating, debilitating effect, not only on the health of our people, but on their livelihood and our economy. Just today, as Mrs. Cipriani stated in the caucus, there was an article in the Scranton Times which stated that Lackawanna County's website crashed yesterday when they offered a digital application for business relief grants. People are desperate for help. At no time in the city's history have we needed a more qualified, competent, and most importantly, experienced individual to lead our Office of Economic and Community Development. As a city, we all know that we're staring down the barrel of unprecedented economic challenges. When Lackawanna County moves from a red to a yellow phase, whenever that is, there will most likely be many businesses which have closed that will not be able to reopen. This presents a challenge in terms of lost jobs and revenue that the city receives. For example, business privilege and mercantile tax and earned income tax revenue. We must give the mayor and her administration the tools to be able to have a chance at recovery. We need the best person for the job, not somebody's cousin, not somebody's brother, sister, or uncle. We need someone who knows how to work with the business community to come up with plans and strategies to actually foster growth. The city is going to need someone in the important position of OECD director who has already built relationships throughout the state and with the governor's office and state legislature. Someone who has experience navigating the grant process. Every municipality in the state will be competing for the same funding, the same grants, and the same resources. It is crucial that the city of Scranton is competitive because many times in the past, we have not been. Ms. Cipriani's resume is impressive. The former Deputy Secretary for Workforce Development for the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry, former Director of the State Workers Insurance Fund, Special Assistant for Strategic Initiative in the Department of Labor and Industry, master's degree in organizational management and degrees in leadership development and project management. She clearly has the background, qualifications, and experience to do the job. The waiver process was put in place for these specific situations in which the city would face unique challenges. And I don't think anyone will disagree with me when I say that we are in an extremely unique position. And trying to come out on the other side of the devastation of this coronavirus pandemic is going to require not only council working together with the OECD director, but it's going to require someone who actually has experience, someone who actually has the qualifications. Over the past 6 years, I've guided my decisions based on what I think is best for our city. After reviewing the resume, after understanding the unique situation we're in, this is in the best interest of the city, and that's why I'll be voting for the appointment, and I'll also be voting for the waiver. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction into its proper committee signify by saying aye.
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 No? Or opposed, rather? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to waive the residency requirements for Eileen Cipriani in her capacity as Executive Director of the Office of Economic and Community Development for the City of Scranton.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Mrs. Reed?
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file with Council number 7, 2020, and ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to accept the Department of Justice BA FY20 Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program, a grant in the amount of $64,162 awarded to the City of Scranton Police Department to be used for the purchase of supplies and equipment to respond to, prevent, and protect against the spread of coronavirus.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and to move item 6A to seventh order for a final vote.
Second.
On the question? Yes, on the question. I made this request last week just for the simple fact that this funding would help our police department, and in terms of the emergency that we're finding ourselves in, it doesn't make sense to delay this for another week. Anyone else on the question?
Yeah, Billy, as Chairman of Public Safety, I also echo your comments. I mean, our police force needs every tool available to battle this pandemic and be on the front lines. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption. Resolution number 30, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an addendum to the cooperation agreement by and between the City of Scranton and the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs to further amend the cooperation agreement to permit the Scranton Police Department's Force Entry Tactical Team to move all explosive entry, training operations, and activities to the new location depicted in Exhibit A1 and cease to use the previously approved area of the Leech Range property located in Newton Township and South Abington Township.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As Chairman for the Committee of Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gohan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, formerly 6A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, file of the Council number 7, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to accept the Department of Justice BA FY20 Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program, a grant in the amount of $64,162 awarded to the City of Scranton Police Department to be used for the purchase of supplies and equipment to respond to, prevent, and protect against the spread of coronavirus.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As Chairperson for the Committee of Public Safety, I recommend final passage of 7B.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, this might be slightly off task, but in the emergency declarations that we received a few weeks ago, I did ask about, in those declarations, it does say that money over $21,000, it's given the city the permission to purchase and procure items, lease, things like that. And I requested whether we had used that emergency declaration to purchase anything. And at the time, I think the answer was no. Could I make another request to see if the city has purchased anything with that proclamation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else on the question? Ms. Carrera, roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gahn.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted. Before we adjourn the meeting, just so I'm clear, because I don't know if my audio was choppy, when we voted on the appointment of Mrs. Cipriani, Solicitor Hayes, that went 3-2 in favor of Mrs. Cipriani, correct? You're muted. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. It was 5-0.
Or 5-0, I'm sorry. And so my question now is, so that's moving towards next week for a final vote on the appointment. However, there was no second on the waiver.
That's correct.
Right, so where do you
It
go?
fails. The 5 E would have failed because there was no second.
Right, so how does that affect the appointment now, if the appointment goes through next week? And
So
does
the
anybody-
appointment could be effectuated and passed and be effective after next week's meeting. However, the waiver, it would be without a waiver.
Okay,
Residency waiver. So in other words, Mrs. Cipriani would be permitted to serve in that capacity for 6 months, or until would be allowed to obtain residency for within 6 months.
she would be able to what? I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
Obtain residency in the city within 6 months of her appointment.
Okay. All right, if there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.